In some ways, the Passap is the easiest machine upon which to knit sock heels. This is because we can easily change from circular knitting, CX, then put the back bed out of work simply by going to GX, change the front lock to BX, put a pusher up under each working needle, and while those pushers are up, that lock knits stockinette. Every time we lower one, that needle goes into what we would call hold on any other machine. The locks will ignore it. So our row is getting shorter and shorter. And what I have been doing is what is basically the automatic wrap on most machines. That means I knit the row, then put an additional stitch into hold, and that creates the effect that is similar to actually wrapping the next needle over to prevent holes in the sock heel. However, I've heard from a lot of Passap knitters, and I've had some trouble with it myself, saying that no matter how carefully they do this, and what order they place needles in hold, and whether or not they wrap the adjoining needle, they keep getting unpleasant holey effects in the sock heel like these. One of these is knitted just as I showed you just now. I changed the order of putting things into hold, and I've also used wraps. And some of these are better, but they're not what we really want because you can still see my skin through them easily, and we want a good tight join at the sock heel. Now let me say that I often do better than the samples you just saw, simply by changing to real sock yarn that's partly wool and often has a stretchy component added. 25% of a stretchy fiber with the wool makes quite a difference. For this demo, I didn't want to take advantage of the excellence of sock yarn because I wanted to make whatever I came up with as the better method accessible to everybody knitting with maybe plain old acrylic yarn. So I am knitting with plain old acrylic using 2 strands of 224 yarn run together, which gets a fingering weight yarn. I'm using stitch size 5/5 on my Passap and CX for the tubular parts of the knitting. I have a lot of sock books because I like socks and knitters love socks. This one's my latest, and here are some of the older ones. And you may use the technique that I'm about to show you anytime you're knitting socks with a short road heel on a Passap, whatever my pattern says. It's not in the older patterns because I just finished researching it and comparing, tried about 10 things, and finally got a heel I truly like. If you use a real sock yarn, you can expect even better results than the ones you're about to see. Main photo shows the exterior, no skin showing through, although my finger is right up under there, and the interior is the inset photo. Photos are before washing, and washing will draw it in even more tightly. So, let's knit the heel. Of course, I've been knitting tubular, which is CX for Passaps, and you will usually be knitting tubular down to the point at which it's time to knit the heel. Now make sure there is a pusher up under every working needle on the front bed. It can really be either bed, but I'm showing you on the front bed. Change to GX on the back bed, BX on the front bed. So first pass with the locks, we'll lower 1 pusher after knitting the row, then wrap the needle across the bed, the end needle. And the same thing on the other side, knit across, wrap across to the end needle on the opposite bed, lower a pusher. No more crossing the bed to wrap after this point. We will wrap the needle, placing the yarn into the hook next to the final needle that knitted on the row. So knit across, lower a pusher, wrap the nearest needle, and repeat. I am using a 30-stitch pretend heel, which is a realistic size, and we will short row down until only 10 stitches are in work. So what I'm essentially doing is combining the automatic wrap, where you place 1 needle out of work after knitting the row, with the classic true wrap, where you wrap the adjacent needle. I have puzzled long and hard over why this is necessary for Passaps to get a neat heel, though not for most other machines. And I still don't know the answer, but it works well. Once we have created the shortest row, we start adding one pusher, which is adding that needle back to work on the side opposite the locks every row. And I did not find it necessary to wrap again on the way out, which is good because asking a needle hook to hold 2 wraps when it cannot be placed in the all the way forward position would be asking a lot. But thank goodness this works just fine. And now we want to prevent holes from forming at the very top where the heel joins the tubular part of the sock. There are a number of ways of doing this. This is my favorite one at the moment, and that is to lift the purl bump from the front bed, the last heel row, and place it on the end stitch and needle on the back bed. And that does a nice job. Normally, at this point, we're done with the heel. We reset the locks to CXCX and resume tubular knitting. I have several ages of Passap manuals, and I noticed that they have changed the instructions over time, but none of the manual instructions include the exact combination of things that I just showed you to get this effect. Give it a try and see if it works for you.